Welcome back to my channel. Today we will learn about the latest dramatic developments in CBS's long-running soap opera, The Bold and the Beautiful, focusing on the shocking revenge plot that Hope Logan is orchestrating against her former lover, Carter Walton. Hope's downfall at Forrester Creations. Hope Logan is experiencing profound devastation following her dismissal from Forrester Creations. The fashion house that once served as her professional home has now become a symbol of her greatest betrayal. Her signature line, Hope for the Future, HFTF, which represented not just her career but her personal identity and vision, has been completely scrapped by the Forrester family. This professional devastation has left Hope reeling, with her anger and resentment primarily directed at one person, Carter Walton. The source of Hope's anguish stems from Carter's decision to return control of Forrester Creations to the Forrester family. What makes this betrayal particularly painful is that Carter and Hope had previously worked together to take control of the company, with Carter spearheading the idea and even drafting the documents that transferred ownership. When Carter later experienced a crisis of conscience and decided to return the company to the Forresters, Hope viewed this as the ultimate betrayal of their partnership, both professionally and romantically. "I thought we were a team," Hope had told Carter during their heated confrontation, to which he insisted they still were. Her response was devastating. "Forget our relationship ever happened." Carter's position of trust. Adding salt to Hope's wounds is the fact that Carter continues to enjoy the trust and respect of the Forrester family despite his role in the temporary coup. Steffy Forrester made it explicitly clear that while Carter was welcome to stay at the company, Hope was not. This disparity in treatment has only intensified Hope's feelings of betrayal and abandonment. From Hope's perspective, Carter's ability to maintain his position as COO and legal advisor at Forrester Creations, while she lost everything, demonstrates a profound hypocrisy. The man who once stood beside her, encouraging her to fight for what she deserved, has now comfortably returned to the Forrester fold, while she has been cast out entirely. The transformation of Hope's feelings. What once was love between Hope and Carter has now transformed into something much darker. Their relationship, which began as a surprising but passionate connection between two people who had known each other for years, has deteriorated completely. The couple who once skipped the slow burn of early dating due to their long-standing friendship now find themselves on opposite sides of an increasingly bitter divide. Hope's emotional state has undergone a dramatic shift. Where she once saw Carter as her steadfast ally and lover, she now views him as nothing more than a hypocrite and traitor. Her feelings have evolved from love and trust to pure hatred and a desire for revenge that threatens to consume her entirely. Carter's declining health. Amid this professional and personal turmoil, Carter has begun showing signs of physical and mental deterioration. The stress of the corporate power struggle, combined with the emotional toll of losing Hope and dealing with the guilt of his decisions, has left him noticeably weakened and unwell. Carter's colleagues at Forrester Creations have noticed his declining condition, with his usually sharp legal mind and commanding presence giving way to fatigue and distraction. After much urging from concerned coworkers, Carter has finally agreed to undergo medical examination to determine the cause of his concerning symptoms. Hope's diabolical plan. Learning of Carter's vulnerable state and upcoming hospital visit, Hope sees an opportunity for the ultimate revenge. In a shocking departure from her typically moral character, Hope devises a plan to infiltrate the hospital and falsify Carter's medical records and test results to indicate a terminal cancer diagnosis. This plot represents a dramatic evolution for Hope's character, who has traditionally been portrayed as one of the more ethically grounded figures in the show's landscape. Her transformation into someone capable of such calculated cruelty demonstrates just how deeply Carter's betrayal has affected her. The execution of the scheme. Using her family connections and the chaos of the busy hospital, Hope manages to gain access to the medical records department. With careful planning and timing, she alters Carter's test results to indicate an aggressive form of cancer with a poor prognosis. She ensures that the falsified diagnosis appears legitimate enough to convince not only Carter but also his doctors its validity. The scheme is executed with a precision that would have been unthinkable for the Hope Logan viewers have known for years. This calculated approach to revenge shows a new side of Hope that more closely resembles the manipulative tactics often employed by her longtime rival Steffy Forrester, or even echoes the schemes of Sally Spectra from the show's earlier years. Carter's devastating diagnosis. When Carter receives the falsified diagnosis, he is completely shattered. The news that he supposedly has terminal cancer and only months to live sends him into a profound emotional crisis. As a man who has always prided himself on his physical strength and vitality, the diagnosis represents not just his mortality but a complete upending of his self-image. The false diagnosis forces Carter to confront his life choices with a new urgency. He begins to question whether his decision to prioritize his professional ethics over his relationship with Hope was truly worth it, now that he believes his time is severely limited. The guilt and regret he already felt over hurting Hope is now magnified by the belief that he may never have the opportunity to make amends. Hope's internal conflict. Despite her initial satisfaction in seeing Carter suffer, Hope soon finds herself wrestling with the moral implications of her actions. Having grown up as Brooke Logan's daughter, Hope has spent much of her life trying to avoid the manipulative behaviors that often characterized her mother's approach to relationships. Now, she finds herself engaging in exactly the kind of deception she once condemned. As she watches Carter struggle with his supposed diagnosis from afar, Hope experiences moments of doubt and remorse. The satisfaction of revenge begins to sour as she witnesses the ripple effects of her deception, not just on Carter but on others who care about him, including her own mother, Brooke, who has maintained a long friendship with Carter. The Forrester family's response. When news of Carter's diagnosis reaches the Forrester family, they rally around him with support and concern. Ridge, who has long viewed Carter as not just an employee but a friend, is particularly affected by the news. Steffy, despite her hardline stance against Hope, shows a softer side in her concern for Carter's well-being. This outpouring of support for Carter only intensifies Hope's conflicted feelings. On one hand, she resents seeing the same people who cast her out embrace Carter so warmly. On the other hand, she begins to question whether her revenge is truly justified, given the pain it's causing to innocent parties. Daphne's role in the unfolding drama. Complicating matters further is Daphne Rose, who has been positioning herself as Carter's potential new love interest. Previously revealed to be working with Steffy to break up Hope and Carter, Daphne now finds herself genuinely concerned about Carter's health. Her planned seduction takes a backseat to genuine care as she spends time with Carter during his supposed treatment. Hope watches this developing connection with mixed emotions. While part of her is satisfied that Carter's relationship with Daphne is built on a foundation of lies, another part feels jealous seeing someone else comfort the man she once loved. The truth begins to unravel. As weeks pass, inconsistencies in Carter's condition begin to emerge. Despite the supposedly aggressive nature of his cancer, Carter's actual physical symptoms don't align with what would be expected. A particularly astute doctor begins to question the initial diagnosis and orders new tests. Meanwhile, a hospital administrator discovers evidence of tampering with the medical record system that traces back to the day of Carter's diagnosis. As the investigation proceeds, Hope realizes that her scheme is in danger of being exposed. Brooke's suspicions. Brooke Logan, who knows her daughter better than anyone, begins to notice Hope's strange behavior whenever Carter's health is mentioned. Drawing on her own history of questionable decisions, Brooke recognizes the signs of guilt in Hope's demeanor and confronts her daughter about her possible involvement in Carter's situation. Initially defensive, Hope eventually breaks down under her mother's questioning. In a tearful confession, she admits to falsifying Carter's diagnosis as revenge for his betrayal. Brooke, despite her own checkered past, is shocked by the extent of Hope's deception and urges her to come clean before more damage is done. The moment of truth. Faced with her mother's disappointment and her own growing guilt, Hope makes the difficult decision to confess. She arranges to meet Carter at the hospital just as he's receiving the results of his new tests, which show no evidence of cancer. In an emotionally charged scene, Hope reveals the truth about her deception. Carter is initially stunned into silence, unable to process that the person he once loved could subject him to such psychological torture. His shock quickly turns to anger as he realizes the weeks of fear and anguish he endured were all part of Hope's revenge plot. News of Hope's deception spreads quickly through the Forrester and Logan families, creating new divisions and alliances. Ridge and Steffy are furious, seeing this as confirmation of their decision to remove Hope from the company. Brooke, while disappointed in her daughter's actions, defends Hope's right to redemption, pointing out that everyone in their circle has committed serious mistakes in the past. Carter, once he processes his initial anger, is left with complicated feelings. While he cannot forgive Hope's actions, he recognizes that his betrayal played a role in pushing her to such extremes. This realization forces him to confront the consequences of his own choices in a way he had previously avoided. Hope's journey toward redemption. Ostracized by nearly everyone in her social circle and facing potential legal consequences for her actions, Hope reaches a personal low point. The revenge that was supposed to heal her pain has only created more suffering, both for herself and others. In this moment of crisis, Hope begins the difficult process of genuine self-reflection. She realizes that her actions weren't just about Carter's betrayal, but about a pattern of loss and abandonment she's experienced throughout her life, from her complicated childhood to her failed marriages with Liam and Thomas. A new chapter begins. As the dust settles on this dramatic chapter in the ongoing saga of the bold and the beautiful, both Hope and Carter find themselves at crossroads. Carter, having confronted his own mortality, albeit under false pretenses, begins to reassess his priorities and the rigid moral code that has sometimes kept him from true happiness. Hope, having seen the darkest aspects of her character brought to the surface, must decide what kind of person she wants to be moving forward. Will she continue down a path of bitterness and revenge, or will she find a way to reclaim the more positive aspects of her identity? This storyline represents a significant evolution for both characters, pushing them beyond their established patterns and forcing them to grow in unexpected ways. For viewers of The Bold and the Beautiful, it's a reminder of how quickly fortunes can change in the world of daytime drama, where today's lovers can become tomorrow's bitter enemies, and redemption is always possible, no matter how grave the transgression. Next, we will learn about the issue of family loyalties being tested to their limits as Sheila Carter faces an impossible choice between her newfound granddaughter and her husband. A dangerous alliance forms in Los Angeles. What everyone initially feared when Sheila Carter was released from prison has begun to materialize in ways even more concerning than anticipated. The notorious villainess of Los Angeles now finds herself drawn to her newly discovered granddaughter, Luna Nozawa, creating what could become the most dangerous alliance Bold and the Beautiful has seen in years. With both women harboring deep-seated resentments and a shared penchant for manipulation, the residents of Los Angeles have every reason to be concerned about this budding grandmother-granddaughter relationship. Security experts within the Forrester family have already begun implementing additional protective measures around their properties and loved ones. Ridge Forrester was overheard telling his security team to double everything after learning about Luna and Sheila's first meeting. The family's institutional memory of Sheila's previous reign of terror remains vivid, with even the younger generation having been briefed on the potential threats she poses. "History has a way of repeating itself in this town," commented veteran Forrester employee Pam Douglas while nervously arranging her famous lemon bars during a recent staff meeting. "And when Sheila Carter is involved, that history tends to be particularly bloody. Danger lurks around every corner." With both Sheila and Luna now free to roam Los Angeles, an atmosphere of apprehension has settled over certain social circles. The two women, both having received controversial legal reprieves, Sheila through her prison release and Luna through her unexpected pardon, represent a potentially volatile combination that has many looking over their shoulders. Steffy Forrester has reportedly increased security at her Cliff House, installing a state-of-the-art surveillance system that would make most government agencies envious. Her husband Finn, caught in the middle of this family drama, has been observed looking increasingly stressed during his hospital shifts, with colleagues noting his distraction and concern. Even Taylor Hayes, who has experienced Sheila's wrath firsthand over decades, has reportedly resumed therapy sessions to manage her anxiety about the situation. When Sheila finds a kindred spirit, especially one related to her by blood, the potential for chaos multiplies exponentially, Taylor explained to her own therapist in a session that was later discussed among her close confidants. The Forrester roadblock. Steffy Forrester has emerged as the primary obstacle in both Sheila and Luna's desire to establish relationships with Finn. In a tense confrontation at the Forrester mansion, Steffy delivered an unequivocal ultimatum to her husband regarding his murderous half-sister. "I won't have that woman anywhere near our family," Steffy declared, her voice trembling with both anger and fear. "She tried to kill me, Finn. She's Luna's daughter. The apple doesn't just fall from the tree in this case, it crashed down and exploded." Finn's reaction revealed the internal struggle of a man torn between his wife's legitimate concerns and his natural curiosity about his biological family. While he nodded in apparent agreement with Steffy's demands, close observers noted the conflict in his eyes, suggesting that Steffy's ultimatum might not be the final word on the matter. Despite Steffy being Finn's reason for living, commented one insider close to the couple, there's a biological pull that's difficult to ignore. The question isn't whether he'll be curious about Luna, it's whether he can resist acting on that curiosity, working together against common enemies. The shared DNA between Sheila and Luna extends beyond physical traits to include what many describe as an evil streak that manifests in their approach to obstacles. Both women have demonstrated a willingness to go to extreme lengths to achieve their goals, and now they appear to be identifying common adversaries. During a private conversation at Sheila's new apartment, a space she secretly arranged for Luna without Deacon's knowledge, the two women began comparing notes on those who have wronged them. Steffy Forrester's name topped both their lists, with various other Forrester family members following closely behind. "They're trying to erase us from existence," Luna reportedly told her grandmother during this meeting. "They want to pretend we don't exist because we don't fit their perfect Forrester narrative." Sheila's response was chilling in its simplicity. "Then perhaps it's time we remind them that we not only exist, we thrive when challenged." Sources close to the situation report that the two have begun formulating strategies to circumvent Steffi's ban and bring Finn back into their orbit. Their methods, while still in the planning stages, are said to involve a combination of emotional manipulation and strategic positioning that would make it difficult for Finn to maintain his distance without appearing heartless. Exchanging war stories. The bonding between Sheila and Luna has accelerated through their shared experiences as outsiders and perceived victims of the Forrester family's exclusionary tact. Bold and the beautiful viewers witnessed the beginning of this connection when Luna discovered her grandmother's missing toe, a physical reminder of one of Sheila's most notorious escapes from justice. Rather than being repulsed by this physical abnormality, Luna viewed it with fascination, even admiration. "That's like a battle scar," she remarked, leaning in to examine the nine-toed foot that Sheila proudly displayed. "You survived something that would have destroyed most people." Sheila's promise to share the story behind her missing digit was delivered with an almost gleeful anticipation, suggesting that she views her past misdeeds not with remorse, but with a certain pride. "It's quite a tale," she told Luna with a wink, "involving a bear, a cabin, and your grandfather Finn's mother." This exchange of war stories has continued in subsequent meetings, with each woman seemingly trying to outdo the other with tales of their schemes and survival. Luna's recent manipulations at Forrester Creations, while significant, pale in comparison to Sheila's decades-long reign of terror, creating an almost mentorship dynamic between the two. "I once switched paternity test results too," Sheila reportedly told Luna after hearing about her granddaughter's laboratory deception. "But I did it the old-fashioned way by holding a lab technician at gunpoint." Deacon's ultimatum. While Sheila and Luna grow closer, Deacon Sharp has drawn a firm line in the sand regarding his wife's newfound family connection. In a heated confrontation at their apartment above El Giardino, Deacon made his position unmistakably clear. "It's either her or me, Sheila," he declared, his voice rising with emotion. "I've stood by you through everything. The prison time, the judgmental stares, the whispers behind our backs. But I will not welcome that manipulative, murderous young woman into our lives." Deacon's ultimatum leaves no room for compromise or negotiation. His assessment of Luna as poison reflects his deep-seated concern that association with her will trigger a relapse in Sheila's reformed behavior. Having witnessed his wife's gradual transformation from villain to something approaching normalcy, Deacon fears that Luna represents a path back to darkness. "I didn't marry Sheila Carter, the psychopath," he explained to a concerned Hope Logan during a private conversation at Il Giardino. "I married Sheila Carter, the woman who's been fighting to be better." Luna threatens all of that progress. The magic words. The turning point in Sheila's approach to the situation came during a particularly tense exchange with Deacon, when she uttered the phrase that has historically signaled her unwillingness to compromise, "Luna is my flesh and my blood." While this expression might seem innocuous coming from anyone else, those familiar with Sheila's history recognize it as a declaration of absolute loyalty that transcends reason or negotiation. When Sheila invokes blood ties, she typically follows with actions that prioritize those connections above all else, including legal, moral, or marital obligations. "The look in her eyes when she said those words," recalled one witness to the exchange, "it is like watching the old Sheila resurface after being submerged for months." There was something primal and non-negotiable in her expression. For Sheila, who has spent much of her life seeking connection and belonging, the discovery of Luna represents more than just another family member. It's validation of her existence and legacy. In Luna, Sheila sees not only a genetic continuation, but a spiritual one. Someone who understands and even appreciates the darker aspects of her nature that others have consistently rejected. A chip off the old block. The similarities between Sheila and Luna extend far beyond their shared DNA. Both women exhibit a remarkable talent for deception, manipulation, and self-preservation that distinguishes them from typical soap opera villains. Where others might scheme for specific goals like wealth or romance, Sheila and Luna appear motivated by a deeper desire for recognition and inclusion, making their machinations more complex and potentially more dangerous. Luna's recent actions at Forrester Creations, manipulating paternity tests, orchestrating corporate takeovers, and even attempting murder, mirror Sheila's own history of boundary-crossing behavior. This parallel hasn't escaped Sheila's notice, and sources close to the situation report that she views Luna's misdeeds not with disapproval, but with a grandmother's pride. She's got that Carter spark, Sheila reportedly told Deacon during one of their arguments about Luna, that fire that refuses to be extinguished no matter how many people try to stamp it out. This recognition of shared traits has fueled Sheila's excitement about building a relationship with Luna. Beyond the basic grandmother-granddaughter connection, Sheila sees in Luna a kindred spirit, who might finally understand her in ways that even Deacon, with all his acceptance, cannot. Over-the-top excitement. Bold and the Beautiful fans have noted Sheila's unusually effusive reaction to discovering Luna's identity. The typically controlled and calculating Sheila displayed an almost childlike giddiness when confirming their biological connection, leading many to question whether her enthusiasm stems from genuine familial joy or something more strategic. "I've never seen Sheila smile like that," remarked one longtime viewer of the show. "It wasn't her usual smirk or calculating grin, it was almost innocent, if that word could ever apply to Sheila Carter." Psychological experts who follow the show have suggested that Sheila's excitement might represent a complex emotional response to finding someone who not only shares her DNA, but potentially her worldview. After decades of being vilified and rejected, discovering a granddaughter who appears to operate from a similar moral framework offers Sheila a form of validation she's long sought. In Luna, Sheila sees not just family, but vindication, explained Dr. Taylor Hayes during a private conversation with Ridge Forrester. She sees proof that her traits, even the destructive ones, have persisted through generations, suggesting they're not aberrations but simply part of who the Carters are. The missing toe trophy. The bonding moment between Sheila and Luna over the grandmother's nine-toed foot served as a perfect metaphor for their developing relationship. What would typically be considered a physical flaw or reminder of past misdeeds became in their interaction a badge of honor and symbol of resilience. When Luna first noticed Sheila's missing digit, her reaction wasn't one of disgust or pity, but of fascination and resent. "That must be some story," she commented, leaning in for a closer look rather than recoiling. Sheila's promise to share the tale behind her missing toe, a story involving a desperate escape, a bear trap, and her own willingness to mutilate herself for freedom, was delivered with an almost theatrical flair. For Sheila, the missing toe isn't a source of shame, but a trophy that represents her indomitable will to survive. "Some people collect souvenirs from their travels," Sheila told Luna with a wink. "I collect chronometers of obstacles I've overcome. This toe, or lack thereof, is just one of many." Welcome back to B&B Spoilers channel. Today we will learn about the issue of family loyalties being tested to their limits as Sheila Carter faces an impossible choice between her newfound granddaughter and her husband.